It's Tuesday, December 20th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, welcome to the Beer Temple podcast. I am your, for now, sole host, Chris Quinn, coming to you from the Beer Temple, the back of not Studio BT, but the Fox Room on this cold Chicago night in December, the 20th, as I mentioned. By now, this is when my co-host, Mike, would usually jump in and save me, but he's had a apparently hellacious brew day out at Goldfinger doing a double decoction brew that I guess got delayed by, just a matter of 4 or 5 hours. So perhaps he will make it. Hopefully he will, because this is the annual end of year show when we've been doing for, oh boy, long time. So looking forward to that. I've got some guests lined up, and we pretty much do this the same each year. I'll get to it in just a moment, but I want to introduce the guests first. But I also want to thank everyone out there listening on Lumpen Radio or via podcast, however you listen to it. Thanks over to the people at WLPN, Lumpen Radio. Thanks to the Fade Master himself, who's in the house, Serge, keeping me in line. Yeah, there he was. You finally heard him. So yeah, we'll get to it. For those of you who've listened to the show for a while, you may remember the format of the show. We do it the exact same every single year, so we can even go back and I can read what some people were saying a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We'll just see. But before I do that, let's talk to our guests. I always introduce our guests in order of seniority, and I think, Shana, you are the senior member of the panel today.
No kidding.
Yeah. How are you? What's up?
Doing well. Feeling good. It's getting cold, but...
Shana Solarte of Omega Yeast.
Yes.
What's up with you?
It's cold outside.
It is, yeah.
But
You didn't bike here, did you?
Sort of. I caught an e-divvy from the red line down here.
Whoa.
Because the bus wasn't coming, and I'm impatient. And it was invigorating. Very cold.
Invigorating. That's the word you'd use?
Yeah,
invigorating?
I felt good when I got off the bike. There's no bad weather, just
what is it, like 20 degrees
gear.
out, or?
Yeah. It's nothing. It's all right. It's not snowing yet.
True. Sure, we got to get this in before we get the dump. The I heard up to 20 inches we could be getting.
I thought it was up to like 40 or 50.
Are you kidding? Are you joking?
Maybe like 100.
Oh yeah, you are joking. No, we have a guy who works in air traffic control for O'Hare, and we were hearing that we were going to get like 8 inches or something like that even a couple days ago, and he was like, no, like it could be like closer to 2 feet. And then lo and behold, like the next day, it started coming out. It's like, well, it could be more. It could be. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The Yeast won't care, though, will it? It doesn't care.
No, they've got a nice, cozy home.
They like it when it's cold, right? They just go dormant.
They just take a nap.
Yeah.
They chill, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Hey. So, yeah, this is your first, both of you guys, this is your first time. So, thanks for coming on. And then we have our next guest, Mr. Jude LaRose. What's up, dude?
Nothing. What's going on? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Have you been on since? You haven't been on since your taproom opened, have you?
Just before, I don't think so. So you're right.
Okay.
But it was a week or two before.
Oh, also for those listening, there's a book club in the middle room. So if you hear people talking about books and getting really heated about it,
They look like they're having such a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
They brought in pizza,
Mm-hmm.
drinking beers.
I think
Yeah.
they might be recording a podcast right now too.
An end of year book review.
Totally.
That's cool.
When I walked by, I looked, I was like, I didn't know what they were doing. I was like, oh, cool, book club. They were having a good time.
Yeah.
How's life as a bar
Great.
bar owner going?
It's great. It's so much fun to have a tap room for the first time in 8 years.
Yeah.
If we can go back to the weather real quick.
Yes.
So this is going to come out post-blizzard, probably?
Yeah.
Make
think
your
that-
predictions
yeah.
now.
I know. I just thinking about it. Sorry, I feel like the weather has dominated our ears the last 3 days.
Yeah. I'm freaking out because I have some shopping still to do. So
Yeah,
now I have
same.
to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shipping too that could possibly occur
Oh.
within the next 2 days.
Yeah, it's a little tight over
all
at the
gonna
lab
get
right
screwed.
now. Like, what are we going to do if something terrible happens?
The heat is on.
It won't be
Yeah.
on.
You're right. You got to run your faucets now.
Yeah.
And open up your
Start the drip.
your cabinets or open up the sinks, right?
Yes.
Fixture doesn't freeze.
Yeah.
Have we talked enough about the weather, or do you still want to talk a little more about the weather?
I want to talk about how stoked I am as a listener from episode 1 in 2015 when our brewery was
Wow.
just starting. It is an honor and a privilege to be a part of the end of the year. Is this called
Yeah.
the end of the year episode?
Year-end show. I
Year-end
don't
show?
know.
Love it.
You'd think that in this time I'd come up with a standard name, and I think I've named it a few other things. People know what it is, basically. We can give the rundown. So basically the rundown is we're going to get everybody's beer of the year. Then we're going to get the beer story of the year. And then we're going to look at then we're going to get their predictions for 2023. And I don't know what order I'll do it in, but we also like to go back and look at past predictions and see how they're holding up. I wonder if the book club does all that stuff for their end of year show. I don't know.
I think they're having the equivalent right now.
Yeah, basically.
They're making their 2023 theme predictions.
Yeah, exactly. What books will we read? What will be our favorite book of 2023 that we haven't read yet? Well, thanks, Jude. I appreciate.
Stoked to be here.
Yeah, it's cool. So we send out the outline ahead of time. We get everybody's feedback ahead of time, except for the people who don't fill it out, like my co-host who didn't fill it out entirely, or Edmar.
That's why he's not here.
Edmar, who totally flaked and said, "I could be there. I can't be there." So at least he gave me a couple hours notice. That was nice,
I think Mike's really just drinking Hellas from the side of tanks.
right?
I think that's the delay that happened at Goldfinger today.
Right.
He did send out an email earlier that said, I think I'm short Cara Red, I think it was. I think that's what might have been the 4-hour delay.
Yeah, I was supposed to get there. Yeah, well, it was, I think, a 4-hour delay. I got there 4 hours late, and then he got started, and he's out in Downers Grove, wherever.
Downers.
Yeah, so he's racing back. I'm sure he's trying to fly to
Yep.
get here, but he's not going to get here in time, I don't think, because instead of talking about what beers we've been drinking lately, I think we're going to talk right now about the beer of the year for all of us. So are you guys ready to start? All right. So
Yeah.
here's the deal. I always like to mention the beer of the year should somehow be related to 2022 or the year, but it can be your favorite for any reason. It could be the best beer you've had, the most important beer, anything. It just has to be, and same goes with the stories and all that stuff, you know. I don't really like to tell other people how to define the best. So I was curious, would you mind if we start with you, Jude, because I know all your beers already, except for Mike, who didn't fill it out. But he's not here anyway. So can we start with you?
Sure.
All right. Go for it. What's your beer of the year?
It came in a 12-pack.
Okay.
It's made in California. It was
Okay.
very fresh. So maybe about 3-4 months ago, it was a long day at work. Got a lot of work in. Was exhausted. Decided to stop by the beer cellar in Glen Ellen. They had a 12-pack of Trumer Pills.
Nice.
Brought it home. Proceeded to crush not one, not two,
Nice.
not three.
Whoa.
But then my wife Natalie looked at me and said, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "This beer is great right now." 4. When I had it, I said, "Wow, this is the best beer I've had all year."
When was this?
There was a very fresh, not that their drops aren't fresh, but there was a very fresh Trumer drop. That had to been maybe September. Maybe it was around September. They had another one right after it. Wasn't quite up to that.
Like somebody walked in. I was funny because there's a sign that says there is.
I thought it was Mike.
I did too. I was gonna be like, "Hey, he's here." We have a sign that says there is an event in this room,
Yeah.
and then I put a library book cart in front of it that you have to move out of
Yeah.
the way. But I guess people just think, "Oh, that's there for me to move out of the way so I can come into this room," and then be shocked that there's something in there.
Maybe
That's
they
great.
thought the book cart was the book club. And they're like, oh, book club must have
Got it.
put this
Well,
in
the
the
book
way.
cart, it doesn't. The funny thing is, it has board games on it.
Ah, that's
Doesn't
true.
have
I think you
books.
should put up a detour sign. It just
true.
goes down that way.
Yeah.
The beer was great. It was the right day. It was the right temp. It was still probably very warm. There was something about how incredibly drinkable it was. Hop character leading the way, dry, bitter, enough of that nice German Pilsner malt character. And 12-ounce cans, it was too easy. I didn't even need to think about it. And I felt nothing. And I felt nothing. And I said, this is the beer of the year. It's the best beer I had all year. No idea that I would
Wow.
be here today. So it came through. Second one, though, we were in St. Louis. We were going to pour at a beer festival hosted by Perennial. We met our friends from Resident Culture and American Slayer that flew in. We drove down. We stopped for lunch, and we had a Civil Life American Brown Ale.
Yeah.
Sub 5%.
Civil Life is so good.
It was
So good.
there was something about like when you have a beer and everything's in harmony and you don't even need to describe what happens, you just say, this is it. Can't get any more perfect than this. Just whatever's happening here is great and enjoyable. And it was like crisp, malt character, good carbonation, could barely detect hops, but it didn't lean to one side. It was just you drank it and you said, oh, this is great. This is what a sub 5% really well done brown ale tastes like, American brown ale. Let's do it.
Nice.
Great.
That's
That's what
great.
beer should be.
All right. So your beer of the year was just the most enjoyable beer drinking experience you had, or most notable for whatever reason. Yeah.
Well made, great drinking experience. It just hit home.
Sweet. Well, yeah. I'm a fan of both those beers, so those choices have my blessing. So well done. You nailed it for your first go around.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're very welcome. How about you, Shana? What was your beer of the year? I already see that you really wimped out here with your pick.
Totally wimped out.
Didn't pick a beer.
Didn't pick a beer. Well, I'm feeling inspired by Jude's story of like, this is the moment. And the best beer for me personally of the year was I went to Germany earlier this year, and because I'm really cheap, I bought like a terrible travel plan. Flew into Frankfurt, but had a layover in Stockholm.
You bought a travel plan, you said?
Like my plan that I made was terrible.
Oh, okay.
So I had like a long layover in Stockholm, flew into Frankfurt, and then had to get a train to Berlin, and it was just like 16 hours of travel when it could have just been maybe 8 or 9 if I just paid a little more.
Right.
But when
It looked good on paper. It's like, oh, that 4 is just an 8, and then the dollars are so much less.
Yeah, it's
but then you had to live through it.
Then I had to live through it, and overnight flight, didn't sleep a wink, just miserable, felt like garbage when we got to Frankfurt. But I was in Germany and in a train station, and I went and bought a bottle of Augustiner Helles after like not sleeping all night.
Different than the one we get here.
It was outrageously good. The best beer I've ever had in my life. One of those experiences. I think it took me like 4.5 minutes to drink this half-liter bottle. It was amazing.
Yeah, I've drank that beer once because they make, there's an Augustiner Helles that comes to the U.S., but that's branded as something slightly different, I think, out there. So their Helles does not come here. It's in like the stubby 500 ml bottles, right? Yeah.
Yep. Green label, stubby bottle.
Yeah.
It slapped.
Yeah, I've heard.
There or here?
So are
Is
you
it
changing your beer of the year? You're not going to do your whole
I am
going
to
to
do my whole thing.
Okay.
I was inspired for like my personal best beer because like Augustiner Helles is not pertinent to 2022, but it was
Okay.
for my 2022.
Right.
But I think the most impactful beers of the year were, as a city dweller who doesn't own a car and bikes everywhere, I don't get out to the burbs that often. And I found myself reaching for a lot of the suburban lager brewers this year around town, sort of sparked this year by Hopleaf having house beers for the first time, brewed by Art History. And the pale, I think, is just their straight up pale ale. I'm not really sure. I had it when they first put it on. I haven't had it since, but I've gone back to that black lager a couple of times and just had some Roaring Table Pills this past weekend. I grab Goldfinger almost every time I see it. So suburbs are tearing it up with their lagers here in Chicago.
I would totally agree. I think they're making the best lagers in
Absolutely.
the area. So would totally agree there. I heard from Michael Roper, owner of the Hopleaf, that the House Dark Lager is the best-selling beer at Hopleaf. So
And it makes sense.
yeah, I mean, it's still surprising that the best-selling. I mean, it's on all year round, which is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of beers that are on
He
all
has a
year
lot
round.
of beers all the time. I mean, I drink Pivo when I go in pretty much every time. I mean, I went in recently and didn't order Pivo, and Stephanie asked if I was feeling all right. So got a reputation as I sip on one here tonight. But I've followed it up with the black lager quite a few times. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm very happy that the some of those suburban breweries have picked up the mantle of some of these classic styles that seem to be overlooked. I mean, I guess Pilsner not as much, but
Yeah, you look at like what Roaring Table is doing with a
Right.
lot of their pub beers, their English styles,
art history as well.
Art History as well. And I mean, Goldfinger, I
Whole
saw
bunch
that
of
you
different
had
lagers,
I
yeah.
saw that you had their Rauk beer on right now, which is
Yeah.
probably my next beer.
Yeah,
Team Rauk.
What's great is that all three of them have their own distinct styles, and I feel that there's three reasons why they're both all three of them are great, and I feel there's three reasons to go to each one. I think Roaring Table's doing a great job up there. We did a collab with them. What a cool spot in this little like corner of a parking lot up in Lake Zurich. We were in a band when we were in our 20s. We used to jam up there all the time. We hadn't been back there in like 15 years. So to go back there is like the first time we had Taco Bell and got high in Explore, and then went back down into the basement and jammed as little 17-year-olds.
you having little flashbacks there.
Was gnarly. So when we went back and I saw where Roaring Table was. I was like, this was the Taco Bell that we used to go get cheesy gordita crunches.
It's in a former Taco Bell, that place.
No, it's not in the form of Taco Bell.
that would be
Taco Bell is still
amazing.
in the
in the
parking
strip
lot,
mall.
but it's in
like
the strip
the-
mall. Yeah,
super like.
it was
like the shape of the like whatever it would be like it's supposed to be like the Alamo
kind of-
or something.
Yeah.
yes, just like that. Yeah. Yes, all
amazing.
American hamburger from.
I wish it was.
from the Taco Bell.
That'd be awesome if it was shaped like an old Taco Bell, and then if like Art History was like an old IHOP with like the extreme
Sure.
roof slant
With
sitch
Roaring
going
Table
on.
Pills coming out. Was it Art?
Yeah,
Art,
for Art History.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, credit to Art History too, and Goldfinger's making some rad
all
brews.
three of them are doing great work, and I've found myself really gravitating toward those in 2022. So those are my beers of the year.
So I've had beers of the year in the past that were like my favorite beer that I had that year. Stuff like that. I'm trying to look back and see if I even wrote my. All right, so we're back. I forget exactly where we're at, but we were talking about beers of the year. I was trying to think of like, did I have a specific beer that was just somehow, for me anyway, tied to 2022? And most of the beers that I had were ones that were like just going back to old favorites that I was drinking because I wasn't going to be surprised by how much I loved them and stuff like that. So I kind of went with a beer that I just felt was important to the craft segment. And I had a few, and then I came across this one, and I was like, oh, man, I don't know if any beer was more important in 2022. And it's surprising, but it's New Belgium's Voodoo Ranger IPA. That beer is just absolutely bucking all the trends that people are saying, you know, where beer is going with lower alcohol and stuff like that. And it's almost like single-handedly revived the brewery. It's destroying in all the segments that it's in, and more than that, even that it's doing so well, is that all the players who are competitors with New Belgium are all trying to come up with their own version of Voodoo Ranger, and also the brand extensions, all these like Voodoo Ranger extensions. We'll get more to that later, but I think people are just trying to follow that lead. And now I'm talking about bigger breweries. These are the ones who are doing that, but they're looking for that low price, high alcohol, double IPA value, maybe in a single can, a big can, maybe in a 4-pack, you know, something like that. And I don't remember. Can you guys think of the last time like a big brewery like New Belgium has been the trendsetter that the other big breweries are trying to follow? Because there's so many breweries who are trying to do that right now. I mean, Goose locally comes to mind. Rev, I would say, comes to mind too. But
I feel like Founders kind of got the jump on the session train years ago. Then everybody was like, oh, yeah, session beer. We're going to do a 10-pack or a 12-pack, 15-pack.
Yeah, the multi-packs. Right. Yeah, especially because they went to a 15, right?
Yeah, they bumped up to a 15, and then everyone was like, oh, I could do that too. I can make low alcohol beers. I'll slap session on it and sell in volume. But the trend is moving the other way for those of us who aren't just like industry curmudgeons. Everyone else wants to buy 1 or 2 giant cans of something and get ripped on their train ride home.
Right. I mean, apparently a lot of people do.
It's impressive. It's impressive that they've been able to do that. And Sierra Nevada too, right? Alongside it. I wouldn't call them trend setting. I think they're following trends that someone who brewed those beers first established. And they found a way to do it more economically
with the hazy
and
stuff.
at volume. Yes, so they're not trend setting, and they were following a trend when they made that.
Yeah, they were early. They were the first big player onto the hazy game. Sure. I thought Sierra was
New Belgium.
No, I'm sorry, Sierra with hazy little. No, they're definitely. I mean, IPA was definitely not New Belgium's thing.
No,
but this
a way to package it, market it, sell it.
And also the fact that I think the value and the high alcohol is what I've heard is a big reason that it's so popular, is that it's people are saying like, oh, I could get this beer and get this much alcohol for this price. It's, you know, one of the and it still is an IPA, or it still tastes like a lot better than, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to compare it to a malt liquor, but I'm just trying to think of something that somebody are looking for, like something big and kind of strong. And
you're right, though. You can argue it's the most approachable beer style, and then you find a way to make the most approachable beer style even more approachable,
right?
By putting it in a grocery store and making it like economically feasible in a huge brewery, like
or a 7-Eleven or everywhere. Yeah.
Well, even like I went to see a movie at the Davis Theater a week or two ago. And I was looking at the beer list, and they have a 24-ounce Miller Lite for $10, and then they have, I think it's like a 19.2 Anti-Hero for a similar price, and a 16-ounce Daisy Cutter for a similar price. And I'm like, well, I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to get the Anti-Hero.
Right. So here you go. There's a 7%, 19-ounce can is $3 at Jewel Osco. So, I mean, and then there's Imperial Ranger too, which is, how strong is that one? Those are only 12 ounces, but I mean, that's 9%. So 9% alcohol. And I mean, I don't know if I can get the...
That's bucking the low alcohol trends.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of bucking these trends. Yeah, I'm curious how much it costs.
It's great that they can do that, especially a brewery. I feel for Chicagoans or people from the Midwest that didn't get Fat Tire distributed
Also
to them.
$3. So $3 for a 19.2 of 9%.
No way.
What?
$3?
Imperial is also $3 for a big can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
At Jewel.
see. I can see why that would succeed.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense for someone who's just like, hey, I'm gonna have one beer.
A 9%.
I have a $5 bill in my pocket.
$3?
Right. $3 on
Yeah,
sale.
pack of Orbit
On
costs more than
sale.
that.
To be fair, it's on sale. So the regular price is $3.49.
That's insane.
Yeah, man. So, So yeah, for $6, whatever. Well, I mean, you have to pay tax, but I mean, for $10, you can. I mean, that's your night right there. You get 3 of those, and you do not need any more than that. I mean, you really don't need more than 2.
I think it's great that that's your beer of the year. You got a good palate. You've had a lot of beers that you could drink a New Belgium mass-produced hazy beer, and you could say,
Never
this
had
is
it.
good.
I've never drank it.
Oh, you didn't have it?
I've never had it.
Oh.
See, I'm coming at
Oh
it
my
from
gosh.
a completely different tack.
Oh, just from...
So, as from the industry, I think the beer that has had the most impact in the craft segment is that Voodoo Ranger
Sure.
and Imperial Voodoo. Maybe I'm like you. Maybe I'm wimping out and not picking a single beer. So I'll say Imperial. The Imperial Voodoo Ranger has been the most impactful beer in craft beer in 2022 because it's kind of revived some of these big breweries, and I think a lot of them are now trying to kind of go in that direction for this high alcohol value brand extensions. We'll get into that,
I think it's also, Firestone Walker did a good job of finding a good way to make hazy beer on their system. I think Sierra did it too. New Belgium did it too. It's great that when you pour it into your glass and you drink it, that you found a way that they have to hit all their numbers and all their targets and do it in their own way, and they could still make a beer that when you drink, you say, yeah, this is a great beer.
Right.
It's great. How could you argue with that?
Yeah,
Right.
it had to come from a big brewery with regional and national presence. I'm getting in on the wire right now that there was a 19.2 can at 6.5% selling for $5 in a local market years ago, but that's a local market beer. It had to be somebody like New Belgium to take it national and really like flip the script.
And also,
are people going to chase it?
almost twice as strong and considerably cheaper when beer prices are going up.
Absolutely.
So beer prices have gone up since, what year was that, did you say?
More than 2 years ago?
Right. And it's like $3.50 when at regular price at Jewel Osco. I mean, that's interesting. So those are the beers of the year, but kind of going a little bit more broadly, what I want to know what your guys' stories of the year were for 2022. What is the story, or however you want to call it, that kind of was the biggest newsmaker in the world of craft beer for you? I've looked at yours. We can start with you and mine, Jude, because they're related, and you can do your second one after the fact. But what do you got?
So I'm pretty numb to brewery sales. Mm-hmm. But if there's any brewery sale that I feel when I heard it was announced had an impact, it would be Bell's
Yeah.
selling. Because
See, when I saw that, I was like, that was this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Good Lord.
Well, that brings up another topic. I feel like last year was 2017 or 18, but you're totally right. That was this year.
That
Well,
was
what
this year.
did it happen in January, February? Some really early, right? It was snowy out.
If somebody had asked me, I would have said, like, oh, yeah, Bell sold like 3 years
2019?
ago.
No, that's when they got out of Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did they get out of Chicago? Was that 2003,
that was a long time ago.
4,
Yeah.
something like that?
Long time ago.
Yeah, that's a big. I mean, I feel us being so close. I feel us being so close to Kalamazoo, being able to drive there whenever we want, being distributed to. Thinking of beers like Hop Slam, which is just like an annual January pilgrimage. You know what it's like. You know what that hefty malt character, piney, sappy, grapefruit hop character tastes like in January when it's snowing.
Mm-hmm.
Something you crave. Two Hearted, just thinking about all the Bell's beers, wet hop beers that would come through here. That's the one that I feel like makes the most type of impact. But I guess when you take a look at, succession plans and how long, business starts to go on and what it requires to, take to operate and how long that wears on you and what, what that, I don't know, what that looks like and why you get into it, to me, it makes sense. But, but I feel in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal to me. I feel like I have confidence that Bell's is still going to be Bell's. You can still pop into the general store, and it's still going to be good.
It's funny. I love that you and I have the same story of the year because you are one of the most optimistic, glass half full, always look on the sunny side people that I know, Jude. And I don't know many, if anybody who knows me would say the same or remotely the same about me. So we look at things very differently because, yeah, the Bells, I mean, I'm kind of numb to these sales. This was definitely my story of the year also. But for me, it was, it was a little bit more, I don't know,
This is where it's
melancholy.
going.
Yeah, it was, to me, it was, well, this is it. I mean, this is the end of the large regional craft brewery or the hope of them staying independent. I mean, you might have one or two, but they're all going to go, I think, at this point. It's just how they're all going. If you just think about how many of them, and I've done, gone through this on the show before, but there's just so many of these players of the same size, all of them. I mean, there is a few who aren't. Deschutes is still around.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sierra Nevada is still around. After those two, I mean, then you're getting into, I think, much smaller players,
Yeah.
I think. You're getting into, like, Rev Size and maybe Rheingeist or stuff like that. I mean, are there any other big guys left? I mean, I guess you could say New Glarus. They're big in terms of production, but they're tiny. And I mean, they're such an anomaly. They're tiny, they're in one state, so their footprint is tiny. But who else is there? I mean, Surly? I mean, they're not that big, but
still owned.
yeah. But now you're talking about Surly. I mean, they're not national.
Nearly
They're
as
not even
big,
close to national. So
I try to think
Yeah.
up and down like the East Coast and the West Coast and in the middle and try to think who's still that big at that size and hasn't sold.
yeah, I can come up with the shoots.
Sierra's still owned, all right?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Family owned and argued,
Yep,
or
still on the
whatever.
labels
Yeah, whatever
and
that says.
everything.
Argued over. Yeah.
And as you go up to the what's in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, that would be
Deschutes.
Deschutes,
Yeah.
Rogue,
Yeah.
but Rogue's not that big.
Yep.
Uh,
Anything else up there?
I mean, not big people.
Yeah.
I
All
don't
the
think.
places I'm thinking
I
of
mean-
are all tiny.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you had Red Hook,
Yep.
and
Also
Widmer. Aren't they up there?
Yeah, but they're
Yeah, they're not that big. Yeah, and then going down, all the San Diego ones have sold.
Yep.
All the big ones anyway. Stone, Ballast.
I guess Lost Abbey, Port,
well, they just restructured
Right,
to get smaller.
growing down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Firestone.
Firestone's own, yeah.
It's Alesmith.
Alesmith is tiny, though.
They're very small.
Yeah.
They're really small. And
Everybody
then,
on the East Coast is a part of somebody else, right?
Yep.
Pretty much.
Uh-huh. You've got the Canarchy people. You have Dales. You have
And what about like Avery?
Avery. Avery is, I believe they have also sold, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I
They're
think
part of the Mao San Miguel family, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
you have Founders. You have Bells. You have Victory. You have Cigar City.
It's a fun game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have Sweetwater now.
You're right.
You know, I guess Sam
go
Adams.
down
Sam
it,
Adams
yep.
isn't. I guess you could say that.
Yep.
I don't know if you would count that, but you know,
Boulevard's part of somebody else.
Dogfish.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
Brooklyn.
no.
Yeah. So it's to me, it was like the end. Like, okay,
Started in the
that's
80s?
really it.
What, 82, 83, 85?
Are they class of 88? I think they might have been class of 88.
I thought they were before that.
Oh, okay.
Goose is 88, Schutz is 88, right?
Yeah.
There's one other brewery in that three, right?
Okay, yeah, maybe not Bells. I think Bells might be even earlier.
thought
Maybe
it
That
was
was
so-
earlier.
Homebrew in like in 82, 83, 84.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they're so close.
But
It's so
the-
easily accessible.
So the other part of that story, though, and I didn't intend it, but all three of my things are kind of tied together. You know, Kieran bought them. Kieran also owns New Belgium, so they are now becoming quite the potential player in craft beer. I think as the dust is settling, it'd be interesting if one of the biggest players in American craft is Kieran. Of all, I mean, who would have guessed? I mean, it all depends on how long New Belgium stays as strong as they are and what happens with Bells, but it certainly could go that way. You know, I mean, maybe they're just cool. The brands are just cool enough to kind of resonate maybe more
Yeah.
than some of the big guys like Lagunitas and stuff like that.
So this is where I feel like you say I'm positive, and I'm going to say that I don't think it's necessarily considered maybe a cynic in the sense where it's like there's always going to be somebody large and somebody you don't like necessarily like associate with or like feel you're a part of. Like the big guys are always going to be the big guys, and you're going to operate in a different space. So what's the difference if I guess somebody just kind of goes back up into be the big guys? Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, you know, somebody's got to be there anyway. So it's like eventually all of that is going to happen, right? Eventually that's going to kind of take its course, and it's going to be separate.
I
And
suppose.
something's got to go up there.
I guess. I mean, I guess it does, but it's also
I don't think they're evil.
maybe they
I'm not
could have
gonna
been
look at Bells and be
more
like they're evil.
more regional players than like Heineken putting Lagunitas
Yeah.
everywhere in every hotel. Maybe it would have stayed a little bit more regional longer, or who knows? I mean, if Goose Island was as big as they are now, but wasn't bought, which I don't know if it's possible. You know, the money would certainly be distributed a little bit differently.
Sure.
You know, it would be staying more local to
Yeah.
this community.
They operate in different stratospheres, you know, and they play in different spaces. And I feel like the people that are drinking those beers, if they're not playing in that space, and that's not why they're buying the beer, you know, then it's never really kind of hitting the radar.
Right.
You know,
Right.
So then I feel like I feel like people that like us that drink beer, we have a certain feeling about Bells. We'll keep drinking their beer, you know, no matter what. But we'll process all of the information still, you know, and we'll put it through our lens, you know, and we'll drink what we drink too. And then there's some people, I guess, that just don't even care.
Right.
It's
Most
all
people,
eventually
I
going to
think,
go up there.
Most people don't really care.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That I think is true.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm going to still hold that.
Before we
Larry
get
Bell's
to
still
Shana's, you had a second story of
Oh.
the year, right?
alive. We need Doug here, though.
Oh,
We
okay.
need Doug here. All right, so how about this? We're going to talk about cold IPA. I can
Okay.
sit here all day and talk about it because anytime I hear cold IPA talking on the show, I just want to be a part. I want to jump
Why?
out.
You gotta
Start
call
talking.
in.
'Cause I'm passionate. I'm passionate about it.
About cold IPA?
How about this? Because it lasted one whole year, and it's still going, and it's still going to be brewed into next year.
I mean, we're on like year 4 of it, really.
You're right.
Wayfinder's been making it
You're
since
right.
2017, 18.
You're right. You're right. but really in the news for the last,
Oh, yeah.
two?
Yeah.
But
the
you're right.
curmudgeons,
Shana,
the
you're right.
curmudgeons got a hold of it in the last year or so.
They did it
What do
for
you
a
mean by
long
the
time.
curmudgeons?
The
people
folks who think
focus on
it's
beer style?
Yeah, who would like say, oh well, it's not an IPA if you're making lager yeast, and like that calls into question a whole series of things to question. Like, well, do you care if it's a lager or an ale? What's in a name?
Shane hit the nail on the head.
Is it still relevant, you think? Will it be relevant in 2023?
Yes, it's
I
going to
know
be.
Max, the beer buyer for the bottle shop at Beer Temple, is pretty resolutely not to us, not to our patrons.
Says no cold IPA.
Yeah, he says it's like a poof. It's
Well,
gone.
I'll answer that
But
question.
he could be wrong.
A couple things. First, I think that so we saw brewed IPA happen before it, right? And when you look at cold IPA, it's still an ongoing conversation. I think Kevin Davey at Wayfinder and Wayfinder as a whole did a great job of being available throughout the entire year to talk about it and to share everything about it, and to also go on the other side and say, I don't care if you think it's a this or it's a that, and presented every type of an argument and made you really think about beer, in a larger way of thinking. But he was so
I
open
think
and
it's
so
very
honest.
clever. It's a very good. Clever makes it sound like I'm
They're not trying to trick
trying to
anyone.
put it down. No,
yeah.
I think it's a very effective way of calling it. I mean, if you put IPA on it, it will sell better, and it also lets people know that it's going to be hoppy, and it does it in a way rather than saying hoppy lager or extra hoppy lager or dry hopped hoppy lager. You just say cold IPA, and people are like, ooh,
Well,
new type of IPA.
but that also supposes like they had marketing in mind, like all the way to say this. The reason we're going to call it this is because we see 2 years down the line, and it's going to be the thing that everyone's talking about. They were just trying to make the anti-hazy IPA,
Right.
And if there's, let's say there's no new beer styles that are going to come out. There's not going to be another hazy IPA in the next couple of years. That they were able to take something that was already readily available to them and just talk about process and highlight it in a different way. To me, that's the most exciting thing that somebody can do, and have you focusing. I mean, I don't think we've talked more about lager yeast and about ale fermentations versus lager fermentations and hop profiles.
When you
and
say
rice,
we, you just mean like people who are into craft beer, or
people who are talking about beer. Yeah, I don't think I've heard more of those topics be discussed in the last year than I have about cold IPA.
What I think has been really interesting about their approach and how they've been talking about cold IPA in the world is that it has brought a lot of other brewers out to say, like, yeah, we've been using lager yeast for our like super crisp, clear, like hoppy, bright IPAs for years. We just didn't talk about it because nobody cares. They just care what it tastes like. And like, I mean, this is something that I've sort of harped on for a long time, and like why I don't really love when, sorry, Jude, when breweries are like, this beer has this, and that hop in it, because it's like to the non in the know consumer, they don't know what a mosaic means. They don't know what Sabro is. Like I'm deep in this beer world, and I see things on labels that I'm like, I don't care. I do not care that you use Calypso in this. Like, what does the beer taste like? And so I think when cold IPA comes up, inevitably brewed IPA comes up, and like brute doesn't mean anything to most people unless they've seen it on a bottle of champagne. And most of the people who see brute on a bottle of champagne are buying Andre, and it's terrible. It doesn't like tell you anything. So even if cold IPA doesn't tell you anything about the flavor, it's like it's a word that makes sense to you, and so it's going to grab the consumer. To a brewer, it's going to be like, all right, what are they trying to say? Then you dig just a little bit and you see the lager thing, and it's like, all right, well, we've been doing this. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I just think people think it's an IPA, and then they get it, and they're like, oh, it's this kind of IPA. It's like a clear, crisp IPA, which is fine. I don't have any problem with it being, I mean, a lot of people have a problem with it being a naming convention, and that it's not an A, it should be an IPL. How is it different than an IPL? The difference is it's called an IPA, so it sells better. I'm not saying, Jude, that was the intent, and that somebody was sitting there in the lab trying to craft, like, I want to make lagers sell better, so how am I going to do it? Oh, I'm going to, kind of co-opt IPA. I'm just saying a lot of the success of this style has to do with IPA being
Absolutely.
part
Without
of it.
a doubt.
That's all.
But Shana brings up a great point when Firestone Walker comes out and has a whole year of basically saying, well, first off, hypnosis. Right?
Right.
That's what it's called? Hypnosis.
Hypnosis.
Sorry,
Yeah.
hypnosis.
It's
First
lager
off,
yeast.
right? And then that story comes out, and he's, this is cold IPA, but we just don't call it. And then you see them inviting them to the Firestone Walker Invitational, and then you see them, inspired and talking about how, like Shana, you just said, everybody steps out and is like, hey, a lot of our hoppy beers are nothing but lager yeast. And like that's that conversation. You start seeing collaboration occur between breweries big and small that you never expected. And this all came from Wayfinder just making one beer.
And kind of, I guess, embracing the fact and openly saying we use lager yeast and finding a good, a consumer-friendly label
Yeah.
for it.
It's a great name too. And it's
I'm
a great
kind of
name
with
because
you, though, Shana. Like, do we need to even have... I guess now IPA is so...
but cold works. Cold works in macro beer all the time. Cold filtered, triple cold hopped, cold beech wood filtered,
mountains
cold.
are cold. Drink when the mountains are wearing
But
a
if,
sweater.
but if
Cold.
Hopnosis is a cold IPA, and it's just called an IPA, but it's really a cold IPA, but it's not called a cold IPA, does it matter that it's not called a cold IPA?
No.
Then why does it matter if it is called a cold IPA, is what I'm saying. Like,
It's intent.
does it matter?
I
And
think
I'm
it's
playing
intent.
devil's advocate
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
really
I think,
care, but
I think
like...
it comes down to intent.
Cold's better than hot.
Cold's better than hot.
Yeah.
Although I did hear about a place
that's a
doing
saison.
hot IPA.
That's,
Right.
that's a saison.
There is a hot IPA out there somewhere because one of my friends sent me the Instagram post
Yeah, I
and they
heard
were
about
like,
that too.
"Is this gonna get you all riled up?" And I was like, "No. Have you met me?
We'll get you riled up, fine, over something.
I'm out of here."
Yeah. Oh, I'll get you riled up. You know
So
what's
it's
coming
great.
back? You know what's coming back into the country?
Lion
Yep.
Stout.
See, I know I get her riled up.
That's a different riled up. I'm excited.
Did it.
Yeah. Anyway, you were.
We're
I'm sorry.
gonna have a
No.
whole show on Lion Stout.
Yeah, we are. It won't be recorded.
I
but-
heard that. I was curious what's going on.
Let's get JP in here.
Yeah. What's up? Did you anything else you wanted to add, Jude?
No.
About
Right.
cold IPA? Okay.
Nope.
Should we get to Shana's story of the year? She did find out in 2022 that Lion is coming back, so you can change,
That's my personal.
but it won't
story
be
of the
back.
year.
It won't be back until 23.
So it'll be my
sounds
beer
like.
of the year 23 and my story of the year 23.
Can you bring that over
Okay.
here the next time? I heard you say that, and I have no idea.
Lion Stout?
Yeah, no
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Sri Lankan
Yeah.
foreign
No.
stout.
So good.
It's a nice beer.
I can't wait.
So good. I used to
to
live
carry it
right
here
by
at the shop.
the North Down where they had cans of it for like $3 and it's like a 9% stout and I
Oh,
would
look at you.
come in after work and
Imperial Voodoo Ranger.
yeah.
Yep.
Back
$3.
in the day.
Sure.
I wasn't making a lot of money in the early beer days. I
Yeah.
make marginally more money now.
I first had it at there was like some sort of stout fest at not the Goose Island one, but one at Sheffield, and they had it on there, and I was like, oh, this beer is pretty darn good. And then I heard it was from Sri Lanka, and I was like, oh, cool. I didn't know that craft beer being from Sri
Ceylon.
Lanka was
Ceylon Brewery.
was weird. So like I was that new. I was like, oh, that's cool. I just thought craft beer could be from everywhere, and or craft. I mean, I guess it isn't craft. It's just beer. But
It's really good though.
yeah, I'm very.
Yeah.
I can't wait to try it again and see if my memory of it is similar. I'll say it right now. I remember it having this like really nice ashy quality
Super
to it.
roasty,
Yeah,
dusty,
yeah.
9%, you said?
something like that.
Is it? I would. My guess would be maybe 7 or 8.
I'm
But
jealous.
you might be right.
Do you have a beer to compare it to? Unfairly.
Maybe I think it reminded me a little bit of maybe Founder's Imperial Stout back in the day
Yeah.
when that was around.
Yeah, just super roasty and ashy, acrid bitterness, but also very fruity, sort of like a black cherry
Shana wins
raspberry.
8.8%.
Nailed it.
Can you recall body? Is it like
Not super heavy either. Kind
It's
of
right
like
in the middle. It's
down
like a-
middle of the road.
It's a foreign stout is what I would
Well-
definitely call it. There you go. Foreign/export stout. So just below the Imperial, but kind of pretty, still nice and robust. But yeah, it's a solid beer, and it filled a nice little niche too. You know, it was like wasn't quite an Imperial. It wasn't as intense. I mean, Imperial stouts also back in the day, I felt when Lion Stout was around, were more intense than they are now. So it was nice to have one that was kind of stepped down a little bit. But we're digressing quite a bit because
You said the magic words. I couldn't help myself.
You're predicting that will be your story of 23.
Definitely will be.
We'll get to predictions later, but
I'll
that's
hold
an
on to
early
it.
prediction. What about your story of this year?
Yeah. So Jude's story about bells really made me realize that I've only been living sort of in like 6 to 8 week increments lately, because I feel like that was years ago. But something I've been thinking a lot about is with the World Cup having just happened and FIFA / the royal family of Qatar pulling a $75 million beer sponsorship at the 11th hour, like 2 or 3 days before the tournament started, it was huge. And there's been a lot of very smart people talking about it in more depth and with a lot more critical lens than I am capable of. But I think that Good Beer Hunting covered it really beautifully, and Dave Infante writes a website called Fingers. You should all subscribe to it because he's really funny and also pretty incisive. I enjoy reading his commentary. But I thought the Good Beer Hunting story was really fascinating in that it highlighted how it wasn't, it's not really about having beer. It was kind of like colonialist roots and how this country is just trying to have people think about them and know about them. And then just after I wrote this into the outline this morning, I listened to the story from the New York Times about how all these terrible things took place to get the World Cup going, and so many people died in service of this and were treated horribly. And now, like, the World Cup's over and everyone's like, oh, well, it was fine that we didn't have beer and Argentina won and everyone's excited for Messi. And I feel like this is a big story in, like, how even the biggest, most aggressive, almost bully-like players in the beer biz can get stung by somebody with even more money. And I think it's a huge story, and it came and went.
Well, it came and went. I'm sure it's still being litigated.
Absolutely, yeah.
Insanely. I'm sure it's going to be litigated for quite a while. And, I mean, it seems like, oof, man. I mean, do you think that there was, like, intentional and kind of strategic malintent and involved in this personally?
Like, we'll order it and then, nope, we'll cancel it?
No, like, yeah, we're going to have them be this beer sponsor, and we're going to say this big thing, but we're not going to let it be known for not only Budweiser, but also the fans who are coming. We don't want to let them know before they buy tickets that this is dry. You're not going to be able to drink beer. But we know this, but we can't say it yet.
I think that they had to promise that it would be just fine, which is what they've been doing since they won the bid. Like, oh, it'll be fine. We'll have the facilities. It'll be like any other World Cup you've ever been to. And that was never going to be the case. And I think pulling the plug on the beer just days before it started, after everyone has spent thousands of dollars to get there, expecting a regular experience, that was, I think, their big slam their fists on the table and say, like, no, we're doing it our way.
Have they had to explain it yet?
They don't have to explain anything. They're the royal family. They call the shots, and they paid, I think the final number was that FIFA brought in like $7.5 billion from this over the last, 12 years or something. That, like, they're not going to fight it. They got their money. The tournament went off without a hitch in their eyes. They had this grand celebration. The guy that everybody was, looking to win got to carry his team to the end and lift the trophy. But I think that was sort of, when the beer got pulled, it was like, that's the detail that said They never intended for this to be the way the rest of the world has it.
I also found it so funny and so telling that there was, I think, a video that went viral like the next day. It was a bunch of like, British soccer fans. They seemed pretty like they had been partying quite a bit, and like, so what's it been like in Qatar? He's like, oh, it's crazy. This like, I'm gonna get some of the verbiage wrong, but like, we ran into this prince, and he took us up. We said we were looking for beer. He's like, oh, I have beer, and we went to his place, and he had plenty of stuff to drink, and then he had a tiger, and we were like, and it was. It sounds like these guys were like
a Bud Light,
right? Like he was like making it up, but then like there was two of them, and they were just talking about it very casually, and you're like, I think they're telling the truth. I think this guy was. He's like, he was trying to show off his wealth to them. He's like, yeah, come on, no, we can drink. Come on,
yeah,
come on,
got
here.
2-day-old Bud Light over here.
I have all
Party
this
for
stuff.
party for
So
me.
it's like it's so funny. Like like there, the people in control can do whatever they want to do. So
Unfortunately, the last, anytime an Olympic stadium is being built or a World Cup stadium's being built, typically the stories come out as people are dying.
right. Oh my
Construction
goodness.
is
Terrible.
terrible. That seems to be the kind of common thread between anytime new host cities are coming up to do things.
Oh yeah, I mean the population of the country, without the people who came to the country to help build this, I mean I think the numbers were that it doubled or tripled temporarily because they brought so many people in and sort of lured them in with this promise.
Right.
You think so? Of course, like people are going to go to a World Cup match no matter what, but people go to a soccer match, and if of course I want to set in on the first minute, second minute, 15th minute, 30th minute. Let's keep it going. Second half, I'm getting some beers, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a disappointing overall match day experience, especially when I'm so emotional and supportive of my team that gets pulled. You think it was deliberate, just like we're going to put you on the hook for millions of dollars and last minute?
I think beer is so ingrained and weaved into the culture. Budweiser has been a title sponsor for many, many iterations of the World Cup. So I think it was business as usual. This is what we're going to do. We'll be the sponsor. We'll put up all these banners. They were still advertising during the games. You could still see the banner ads everywhere. They were selling Bud Zeros like crazy.
But is Brazilian and are they European as well? AB InBev, or
I think
however
it's-
the biggest thing.
I think
Belgian, Brazilian.
Yeah,
Belgian, Brazilian.
but I think the ownership is now like the CEOs, the C-suite. I think the highest of the high are Brazilian based now. So
Right on. You got some club teams that they lost to. They got a vendetta in the grand
Well,
scheme of
like
things.
the Qatari royal family owns at least one. I'm sure there are more. I'm not super
European clubs?
keyed in on European clubs, but I think they own Paris Saint-Germain or something.
It's crazy how, so they don't need the money.
No.
They're just going to say.
No, they don't need the money.
Well, and no reporter, I'm sure reporters push them, but there's no answer that came out and said, this is why we did it.
I think they were going to do it the whole time.
that's what it seems like to me. Like, how
was
could they
always the plan.
not
Right.
know? And I think part of it was for the fans too. Because they wanted the fans to get there. But then they're just going to be here. So whatever.
Well, they're going to be there no matter what, right?
I think if they had said years ago,
This
we're not
is
going to
dry.
have
They
beer,
wouldn't have gotten it.
Gotcha.
They wouldn't have gotten the bid because I think FIFA, before now, I think FIFA wanted to show the world we can do this here in a pretty much dry country that doesn't have this tradition. But
Do they have a reason to go dry? Is it against
it
is against religion?
There's in the Good Beer Hunting piece, they translated one of the sayings or a known saying or something that it's like, there's a curse on the producer, the packager, the seller, the server, the drinker. Nobody can touch it. I think they never would have gotten the bid. And I think this New York Times story that I heard today said that this is now a proof of concept for FIFA and they can do this again. They're going to say like, oh, well, we ran a dry World Cup. We could do it anywhere.
Why would they, though? I think really it's just
Money.
who bribed
Depends on
them
where
the
they
most.
go, right?
The
They
richest countries in the
Right.
world are dry.
Right. They just bribed them.
Yeah.
I think, well, maybe not the richest
why they
countries.
shouldn't have
it's
had
the
it in the
countries
winter.
that
Well, the
can-
richest people
can
that are going to
throw the
World Cup
money
in the
around.
winter.
Yeah.
I think this is like a trophy for
Absolutely.
a few people. It doesn't surprise me as much. It was more surprising me that they were going to like allow certain places where it could
Yeah.
be because
little tents.
I've been
World Cup in
watching
the winter is stupid.
I've been watching. I
Well,
know
it was hot there.
I've been
I
right
know,
because people
but-
will like roast and die.
Well, it's
Yeah.
stupid. The winter. This
I've
World Cup should be
noticed.
played in the summer.
I've been watching Formula One for probably close to, more than 20 years, and they started having races in the Middle East probably 10 years ago or more. And at the celebration, there's sponsors that are like, Moet Chandon and stuff like that, and they have giant magnums, and they're shaking it and they're drinking it and stuff like that. And they would have the bottles, but the announcers would say, this is filled with sparkling fruit juice. It's non-alcoholic and they would say it every year because there's no alcohol allowed. Even single bottles as a celebration weren't allowed to do it. So that's not that big a deal, though. I mean, that's like the winner celebrating.
Yeah, that's just it's the picture.
Right. But
Well,
they would say like there's none there, and those are giant put-ons that people come in internationally for and stuff like that. So
Well, Messi, I mean, you're not supposed to celebrate in anything other than your game-worn attire, and clearly the officials gave him like an honorary jersey, and they're getting heat over him wearing and they're saying that.
Yeah, they gave him like the celebratory, like it's like a robe or something that is used for special occasions. They put it on him, and so he did his big celebration sort of
Eyeballs everywhere, all sponsors.
covered in the robe, partially covering up his team attire. And like I feel like anywhere
Country's
else
attire.
FIFA would fine the heck out of him.
And it's in the rules,
And I
and
don't-
FIFA's like president was right next to
I don't know if that's
next,
gonna
and
happen
it's
this
fine.
time.
Yeah.
And if they do, I think maybe that fee might get waived.
well, or it was probably prepaid.
Right. Yeah.
Like here's
Yeah,
an
we-
envelope with a prepaid fine.
Yeah.
I don't want FIFA to come after
Plus
us.
a little
but
some. Hey, it's Rodney Dangerfield from
Hey.
Caddyshack. Hey, keep it fair, Hey, handing him cash.
fair, yeah.
Hey, ref, keep it fair. Here, there you go.
So it's a big story. It's I think beer is sort of the catalyst.
Come on, I'm staying in room 2. Get over here.
right.
Come on.
Hey,
That was it.
Yeah, I think beer is sort of the catalyst for this story, but it's huge. It's crazy.
Sports and beer is weird.
Very
That
weird.
sponsorship
Yeah.
is weird.
let's get to. I think we're ready for some predictions.
All right.
Do you guys want to hear some of the past predictions?
Let's hear 'em.
Okay, so I can go back. So here are some the 2022 predictions made last year. So Mike said that direct-to-consumer deliveries and similar services will see a significant increase. They may have. I don't know if it. I mean, I
They
don't
weren't
know
allowed-
if
they weren't allowed to.
They didn't blow up and yeah.
I mean,
I think he means retailer side, not supply side.
Yeah, I think the DTC companies like the Drizzlies of the world have
Go
just sort of
Puffs and
I think
Tap
they've
rooms
grown, but I don't think they blew up.
yeah.
even extended into you talking about like food, alcohol, or just alcohol?
Like,
Oh yeah, of course. You're just talking
yeah,
about alcohol.
just
Alcohol.
booze.
But what else could we talk about? That was already so. I mean, I feel at the time when he was talking about it, the guild was trying to push a continuation of COVID time practices or rights,
Sure.
which was being able to push that out to people directly, and that was still up in the air. I don't think it got because when you guys did that didn't get passed until January, February, and you guys did that in December, and I think that's
Right.
when he brought it up. Because
Right.
that all came out too. We have to file a water production report as a part of like some type of compromise to show how much water we're making. But I don't know. I feel like Mike was. I mean, because Mike's business was. Mike always talks about how good it was to deliver. Yeah, let's open that. Mike was talking about, how good business was and all the relationships he developed and, kind of like the emotional connection from people ordering direct. The
Right.
guild was pushing for it. It got squashed, though.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
not.
you've got well, he still does that though. He can't do direct to consumer. He can only do direct to retail or stuff like that.
Self-distro is still fun.
John Rubio of the Beerus said that the aluminum can shortage will drive price increases and alternative packaging formats. Well, price increases have definitely gone up for all sorts of reasons. Alternative packaging formats, I don't think we've seen a return to glass at all. There was talk about it, but it hasn't really happened. I think the can market is somewhat stabilized. Is that right? Or is it getting better, Jude?
Up and down. I guess it depends on who you're working with. I still think in some corners it's dire and in some places you're insulated. But
Yeah.
I guess it depends on where you are in the country, too, just like with a lot of some raw materials and supplies. I think you see somebody like Treehouse, I think purposely like tries to hedge a bet and go into glass or 12-ounce cans, and you see some different package formats. But no, I don't think that, aside from like the big players, who sell a little bit differently, that you've seen that as much.
And then for me, I'd been getting called out for having these, like, not having specific yes or no, this will happen enough predictions. So last year I was like, all right, I'm just going to go out on a ledge and just make a hard prediction. So I said there will be a buyout / ownership change of an established Chicago brewery in 2022, and I think I just failed that one. I don't think that didn't really happen either.
I was listening to that. I was shoveling. We had a major snowstorm at the end. I remember I was shoveling in my backyard. I was wondering who you were talking about. I thought that you knew what that was, but
I had in my mind. I mean, it can only be a few,
Yep.
right? I thought maybe one of them would go.
Didn't pan
but
out?
Did not
Nope.
pan out.
Hot butcher.
Yes. So real quick, here's predictions from 2021 made in 2020.
Oh.
So I said Goose Island will have shown itself to yet again be a leader in barrel-aged in the BA stout world with limited brand-specific barrel treatments, catching a ride on the hype train, and that the trend could spread and other people could start really focusing on their barrels being from, specific domain, specific origin. Doug's prediction was just ouch. He says it's going to be a really hard year. I don't think either of them. I mean, mine kind of came true. Doug's, I don't think really did. I think he was a little bit off.
I think he was early.
He was early.
Oh, Doug?
Yeah. 2022 was the ouch year, and I think 23 is going to be an ouch year too.
Yeah.
Brian of Good Beer
Roth?
Hunting. Yeah, Brian Roth. Thank you. Said, I'm anticipating a large return to normalcy by June 21. What did he say? Beer fests, larger crowds, sanitation. I think that kind of happened. That's So that's what we said. Those were kind of weird. That was all, I think, except for mine. Those were really based on COVID. And if you really want to go back in 2019, I said retaining hype will become harder and harder, and those who rely on it primarily / exclusively will begin to have to make more obvious contortions to remain hyped. So they'll start doing drops at other breweries, more extreme examples of manufactured rarity.
What year was that?
I said that'll happen in 2020. This was made in 2019. I think COVID.
Pretty good.
COVID messed all that up.
COVID created a lot.
I said
You're right,
hobbyists will. It'll be harder and harder to get your share of hype, and beer hobbyists. Hey, look who it is! Ba, 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 ba. Wow, what do you know?
Made it.
You did.
Mike just entered the room.
The
So
third,
did Ari.
the third
And,
person to enter that door during the show was the person I thought it was going to be every time.
I think it
One of
was.
them had a hat on like yours as well. What's
I
up,
thought
dude?
it was
How's it
someone
going,
not listening
everyone?
to a sign.
Oh, the seat's nice and warm. Thanks, John.
Wow, it's amazing. Well, screw. We were talking about some predictions made in 2019 for
One that
2020.
I nailed.
What was yours? Yours was
People will like Saison.
you weren't
Still
on.
working
You
that
weren't
one.
on in 2019. So
Rude.
yeah.
Ari, you get this glass.
But-
Mike got the next one.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, whatever.
We're out of glasses.
But more
Drink
importantly,
from the bottle.
yes, we can go kick
It's
some
the type
glasses.
of energy I brought in this place.
Yes. Well, do you? Let me ask you. Well, first of all,
Yeah.
How are you?
This is a beer temple first.
Doing great.
No. How are you? Tell the truth.
Serge,
we
can you
told them
fade
what
him in?
happened.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm doing really.
There you go.
I'm doing really well. It was a fun day, if not a chaotic one. I don't know how much that we were brewing a collaboration out at Goldfinger, and the most important part of the mash bill didn't get delivered. Luckily, Dovetail had the malt we needed. Stopped there on my way out there, but we couldn't start until we were supposed to start at 6. Had to wait until 10 to actually start.
That was an early email this morning.
Yeah.
That's how it worked out.
Yep.
I saw that.
Got it.
good.
But Dovetail responded very quickly, got the malt we needed, drove out there, brewed a rot beer with Goldfinger.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And then we took 7 barrels of the wort, brought it back to our brewery, and are going to make the first ever double decocted red Saison with the same wort from rot beer and release them at the same time because our beers take as long
So
as
cool.
theirs to make. So this was something we've been doing with Jude a bunch of times too, making the same beer, making lager versions, Saison versions. But Ari and I, we just got back from Downers Grove. A part that I needed that would actually allow me to connect hoses to the tote did not fit the way I thought it would.
Ooh.
So we just had the tote up above the tank and just
Slowly dumped
oxygenated it from the top while we transferred it from the bottom bill. Don't tell Tom that we did that.
Cold
'cause
side aeration's fine, I heard.
yeah. Well, it's oxygenation when it's on the cold side like that.
Okay.
Hot side aeration, bad.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so we, yeah, it's don't tell Tom we did that to his beautiful, beautiful wart. But I have a feeling he'll find out.
Yes.
But we're here now.
Yeah, you're here now. Oh, I mean, do you want to?
I'll drink that.
I mean, I think we're in time for some predictions. I was saying what your. We've already said your prediction didn't really come true last year, but that's okay.
What was my
Mine
prediction
didn't
last
either.
year?
Direct-to-consumer deliveries will see a significant increase.
Very much the.
I mean, they probably are up.
They are up.
You were talking about it
Yeah.
at a time when it was so possible.
Yeah, in Illinois at least. I think they're up on a whole actually. Like, Run the Jewels now has a site that's strictly their beer collaborations direct to consumer through this thing called Taproom.
Right, yeah, Taproom. They reached out to us, and then it kind of like
It's
I
not
think
a
they got
vowel, right?
overwhelmed. And
Yeah,
right,
no vowels.
of
Like,
course,
real
because
tech
it's
company.
it's tech.
Yeah, it's still cool.
But people are doing that, just definitely not here.
Yeah. I wonder how much beer they're selling through that thing, though.
Good amount.
Good amount.
They're
Okay.
getting like curated packs from beer influencers too. So there'll be like such and such's 12-pack sold through Taproom.
Who's a beer influencer if it isn't Chris Quinn?
I told you they came to me
Yeah,
Yeah.
You,
early on.
Cruncher,
But he's too influencing that he
Nostradamus,
would have been
Mr.
really
Mr. Douglas.
Mr. Douglas.
Yeah,
so I nailed that one.
yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then every other one you've done, we were about to go through, but we don't need to because you nailed. Yeah. So let me ask, since you didn't fill in any of the outline, we won't have to go through
I
the
filled
story.
in some of the outline.
You didn't. You did
No.
the one we're about to do, but I'd love to know. Do you have a beer of the
predictions.
year?
No,
You don't have a
I
beer
thought
of the
about
year?
it, but I don't know. Like, I just drink.
Okay.
I drink my own beer most of the time. Will be, but
Okay.
I guess I would probably be something like a Timbo or a Wayfinder Cold IPA is what I think is like kind of
It all comes back.
the beer of the year.
always
as far
comes
as, like,
back to
They were
cold
gonna say-
IPA.
I thought you were going to say Magic.
Oh, Magic. Yeah, Magic is definitely
The
the
is
beer of the
was
year.
Butcher collab.
Yeah,
We were just talking about cold IPA before you got here, so it's great that you brought that up.
yeah. I think that is kind of like where beer is at as far as like a single beer. It'd be the Cold IPA.
Got it. Okay.
See, Chris,
I'm sorry. I was just going off of actual sales and numbers.
What show is this?
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, let's. The one you did fill out was predictions for 2023. Let's kick it off. Let's start it out on a positive note. Let's Mike. What's your prediction?
Unfortunately, I think it is going to be the continued and accelerated closure of more breweries.
Accelerated.
Yeah, I don't know if I put that in the document, but
a huge increase in brewery closures
I think that we're going to see a lot.
because I think
it started in the last quarter of this year, and it's going to continue to increase and go faster, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout the year we've seen closures. So this was the year. This is where it started for sure. This was, I think, the year that people have been predicting for a couple of years. I think
Yeah.
started in 2022.
For 8, 9, 10 years, people have been predicting.
Right,
this.
but no, but really, like people have been saying since like maybe 2018.
Yeah.
You know that okay. Well, we're gonna start seeing these things, these breweries close.
Right. And I follow
Auction website?
surplus auction websites pretty closely, and it just is 2, 3,
Just for,
4
like,
new ones
With a
month,
bag of
a
popcorn,
week.
just jolly
yeah,
over
li-
just
li-
the,
like a Michael,
just for
Michael
existential
Jackson eating
reasons.
popcorn
Yeah.
meme.
you know, other reason just to watch and think about, right?
Just yeah. But just new ones pop up all the time, and they're mostly in the like 30 to 60 barrel brew house.
Sure. So they thought they were going to be
range.
pretty big.
Yeah, so that's what's happening right now, and we'll see what that.
For people in Chicago, like a reference point would be like half acres, like a 30-barrel brew house.
Yeah,
Right.
Pipeworks has a 30 barrel brew
So,
house.
so big,
Empirical,
big breweries.
but Empirical also had a 30 barrel brew house. It's like a big one in Chicago that went up for auction recently.
Right. But I guess what I was,
Breweries that tried
More-
to be the regional, made a regional play. is
I
what
guess
we're
I
seeing
was
right
going
now.
for breweries that are making use of their brew houses as
Right.
as intended, kind
Right,
of.
like-
So, like a size of a brewery that you would expect to have a 30-barrel brew house.
And
would
the
maybe
the
be like half
intention when you
acre.
buy a 30 barrel brew house is probably to be like a regional, quote unquote, size brewery making
What you're going
15,
into.
20, 30,000 barrels or something like that.
Your day's set up a certain way, and your fermenters are set up a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're brewing nothing but 30, you can't make anything less than 30. So, you know, that kind of will inform what you make. But yeah, do
Mine.
30 to go into 60 and then 90 and 120 and bigger and bigger and bigger.
My prediction is that goes onto one of these websites, one of these auction houses, and buys. This is a freebie prediction. You're going to be rocking dual 250s.
250 barrel brew houses.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
Lagunitas
Like
one.
Lagunitas.
Like
Dual
Lagunitas.
wielding.
Is
Yeah.
was going to have a catwalk
Dual wielding,
above the brewery.
exactly.
Shotguns off the hip.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna-
This one's will be with Brett at the same time.
Let's make
250
twice
barrels.
as much beer as we
Bang.
made this year in one turn, but let's
Right.
do it twice.
Exactly.
I'll tell you about a decision I didn't make today, and I had a choice between one or the other, and I didn't make the decision either. 'cause I thought
30 and 250 barrel
gonna be
brew
what-
house.
But that was the third and fourth decision. I almost brought
Dual 250.
today either a 375 of Brett Wilby or a 750 of Brett Wilby. But I don't know if that would be weird.
Oh, the 750s are rare.
I didn't know if that was going to be weird if I brought it here.
They're
but
like holographic mutants.
great. Can't imagine from 2020.
That's tasting probably pretty great.
Can't
right
imagine how
now.
great that would say. Sorry, that's a side note.
Thanks for not bringing that. Jeez.
Well, I don't know if it'd be weird for Mike to be like, no, but I know Mike loves his beer. So Mike would have had no
do.
problem about drinking it.
I do love my beer.
Sorry.
If you
That was
don't love
just
your
a
beer,
side.
what are you doing?
You're right.
So,
the
You're
beer
right.
you brought is very tasty.
You're right.
so I made
I think Wilby would have been better.
I made a baby prediction. You made your prediction. You think some huge a huge increase, but do you think it's what type of breweries? If you think will there be any direction or trends or overall kind of like tendencies in the breweries that close, or is it just going to be like a smattering of all types of breweries? Are they going to be in small markets, big markets, certain types of beers that they make, certain sizes?
I mean, I think we'll be probably across all of those, but most specifically focused on breweries that thought they were going to be regional breweries.
So bigger brew houses,
Yeah.
people who
At least that's what we're seeing right now. Who knows where that goes? But I think that trend continues because there is a kind of tacit knowledge that there's some sort of debt structure or significant investment from people with money in those breweries that might not exist in smaller breweries.
Let me ask another question of you. Do you think there'll be any tendencies in when the breweries that are going under were founded? Because that's something we could, as we knows about, we could look at it throughout the year.
I haven't thought about that.
Okay.
But probably before the date that we all think is when like the pivot happened, where it stopped being
So like
vibrant and fun.
2013, 2012, 2010.
Yeah, 2013 to 2015 is probably
When right then.
right. And then they were doing well when we were all like, everything stopped being cool in 2016.
Right.
And that's when they were like, let's go.
Right. They were some of the reason it's not being cool.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they believed in a market and an economic environment that wasn't necessarily going to be there for the next 7 years.
Oh, I think they're part of the reason this wasn't cool. Oh, I think that was one of the main reasons that beer became uncool, is because people started thinking that they were all going to be dual-wielding 250s in a couple of years, and
Don't
their
poo-poo my
60-barrel
dreams.
brewery. No, you are going to be, because you waited.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're waiting for one to come up on auction.
Yeah. Look, I got it for a song. It's just
Yeah.
I'm paying $9,000 a month to store this thing on its side.
It's going to cost me $2 million to get it over from China, but that's fine.
But it only cost me $50 to buy it.
Right.
Can't afford the ingredients to fill it.
Yeah.
Chris, I can't afford not to.
Yeah. Right.
Could you walk a line and kind of like describe what that scenario looks like? So, like at the time, you have like New Belgium, Sierra Nevada, and there's a third brewery that when starting breweries on the East Coast, that was a big wave.
Dogfish
right?
Head?
Was it
Oscar Blues did it
Oscar
too.
Blues was the third. I feel like
But Dogfish Head didn't open up another brewery down there. Huh?
West Coast
Oh,
breweries moved
moved
east,
east.
remember? And then that's the same time Lagunitas moved to the Midwest because
yeah.
everyone was citing
Stone was one that opened.
Yep,
a
Stone
brewery
did
on
it.
the East Coast.
Oscar Blues. Yeah, those are some of the other big ones. I
Those are
think.
pretty big,
Yeah,
right?
those are big boys.
I think I'm talking about breweries that started in like 2012 to 2015 and had a lot of success early on, and then only
Sorry you
saw
said that.
the open field running. I don't think New Belgium's in trouble. Like we're not seeing their 9 bazillion barrel brew house Merlin system on
You didn't see that?
New Mill Capital.
You didn't.
I put a bid in, but
If you saw
only
Oscar,
for the reserve.
Oscar or Felix
Yeah.
on the auction block.
They
Those would go
I don't know if
pretty
they
high.
auctioned those off, but they did auction off a lot of their fooders.
If they did Oscar and or Felix, that would be huge.
Yeah,
Someone would have.
I would have sent it to you. And be
Yes.
like, look at this.
And you probably should put a bid on it.
We touched on it earlier too, but I think Tommy Arthur's been making the rounds on a couple podcasts talking about how they've got 3 core breweries, but maybe 5 or 6 different brands, and how I think they set up maybe in a 30, and how they were set up to go into much larger, fermentation vessels, and how that changed things, and what the dynamic is across all breweries, and just now where they're at, and they're kind of scaling things a bit down.
Shana, do you wanna go with your prediction for 2023?
Yeah. This was something that I didn't think up right away, but while we've been chatting tonight, it sort of got in my head. I think that we're gonna. This is my. I'm channeling my inner Nostra Douglas. I think we're gonna enter into an era of breweries being resold to other giant entities. Our talk about Kieran kind of brought it up in my brain, with new players entering as like sort of a big presence. I think that maybe AB or Molson Coors or somebody huge is going to say, hey, I don't need this brewery that's really small in Ohio anymore. I'm going to drop them, but they're going to get picked up by like Mau San Miguel or Kieran. I think we're going to start seeing like sort of tradings.
Like horse trading type thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pokemon.
So that's interesting. I was thinking as well that mine is related to this in some way, but I'm kind of with you, is that I don't think the big breweries, like the big multinationals, the giant ones, I don't think they're interested in breweries anymore. They're interested in brands. And I think for now, they can only acquire those brands while also acquiring the hardware. But I think it's going to become, I wouldn't be surprised if it is possible for them to just start acquiring brands, and maybe if it is buying from one another, that you could start seeing that, because they would just trade brands. Like,
Yeah, I don't see why they would start
Goose
picking
goes to
up
Kieran,
a
you
new
know? I mean, that
brewery.
wouldn't happen, but
Right.
Yeah, why would they pick up a Sierra Nevada, for example, that's still hasn't been picked up by anyone?
now here's something that's interesting.
Maybe a bad example,
I wonder
but-
if that would slow down the acquisition of these breweries, because they don't want all that stuff. They just want the brand.
They just
want the
Voodoo
brand
Ranger.
rights. Right.
You know, they just want the shooting star.
Right.
Is there a version of this where, I mean, I don't think Is was double wielding 250s.
And also acquiring New Belgium.
Yeah,
gonna happen.
that New Belgium sells something like Voodoo Ranger. Like, would they sell
No.
just that brand? Would,
I don't
like,
think
Is
so.
there like that version? Obviously, like
Yeah.
it's 7 of the top 10 best-selling craft beers are Voodoo.
Yeah, you're
something,
getting
something,
into
but,
like trading ball players at that point. Like that's
Right.
not going to
It
happen.
would be like an Oscar Blues or one of the Canarchies or something like that could like spin off one of them to somebody else. I don't know.
But there is a world where like New Belgium as a whole is less attractive than the Voodoo Ranger brand,
Right.
which is owned by a multinational corporation. So there's a world where Voodoo Ranger lives on and New Belgium doesn't, because
Or-
that's so much more valuable.
Did
than
they
the
spin off the brand into its own
licensing?
brewery?
What if somebody buys New Belgium? What if a smaller player buys New Belgium, excluding Voodoo Ranger, and then it becomes this? It like has like a second life as like an actual brewery.
Well, if you're AB InBev,
But why would somebody
is
do that?
The
I don't
whole
know.
New Belgium portfolio attractive to you, or is it this Voodoo Ranger sub brand they created that is 7 of the top 10 most popular craft beer?
And is
brands?
that enough for them to like go and try to buy the whole thing just
Right.
to get this one brand?
Right, but or would they just be like, no, we know you guys aren't growing that much because nothing's growing. We'll just take Voodoo Ranger, and then you just start seeing Voodoo Ranger. It's not New Belgium. It's just Voodoo Ranger. It's
Well, that kind of sounds to me like the Goose Island buy at the very beginning. It's like, well, they bought them, they ramped up production of some of the core brands, and then let a bunch of the others die out.
I don't know. I think Carlos Brito, or whoever's the head of AB, I'm sure he's into like Transatlantic
You got
Creek.
it right.
yeah, right. He loves Oscar. And
He loves it.
Well, you guys are
Eric
describing
Sale.
Multiple transactions. It sounds like a distributor headache. First
Just,
off,
it's interesting. I hadn't really.
It's not like
I
a-
just started thinking about it, and you
Someone gets
are kind of
traded.
thinking in the same way.
I think that's
Shana.
how a lot of those brands think, though. Like, right? Like, are you going to buy the entirety of Daimler Chrysler, or do you just want Jaguar, Jeep, or something? Like, they
Right.
sell those things all the time. And so the only valuable thing in that portfolio might be the Voodoo Ranger brand.
So do you buy the whole thing and then only focus on the star
Well, you
student?
you probably try not to. You probably
Right.
just try to buy the thing
Try to
that's
buy just the
making
thing.
money right now.
Yeah.
But right, so we just want
probably
the
have to-
brand rights. But the brewery, for now, if it is a brewery looking to sell, like no, we're looking to sell the whole thing.
Right.
I wonder if it could
And
go the other way
assets and
though.
stuff.
That like we'll take the smaller ones and start like we still think there's.
I hope
room
when you're
for a
drinking our beer, you
smaller-
don't care at all about all the transactions that took place before you drank our beer.
What? Say that again?
Or like somebody who could like we still have this like the distribution, like we'll
No, I'm
keep some
just-
of the distribution there, but maybe we think that there could be a play for Belgian beers again. Who knows? And like you guys have your triple and your Abbey Ale 6-packs, and you know
Do they make those?
No, I'm
anymore?
just saying.
I don't know, but I'm just trying to come up with a reason, specifically with New Belgium, where somebody would think that the smaller stuff could be worthwhile, especially with the brand recognition of New Belgium, not Voodoo. And I mean, I'm sure that there is also value in that.
Probably.
Again, that's what I'm saying. I was just going back. Like, I hope the person drinking their beer doesn't care that their beer that they love got traded 5 times before they drink it, because that's really cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
most people buying Voodoo Ranger have no idea.
If you drink,
Well, that's what I'm-
if
that's
people who
what I'm
drink
saying.
Beck's, you know, or like Spaten,
Amstel.
yeah. So, cool. Well, who should go next? You want to? Should I? You or me, Jude? What do you want to do next?
I'll go.
Okay.
So I don't think there's going to be like any more new beer
Oh,
styles.
hold on. Wait. Hold
What?
on. Time out. You didn't give your actual prediction, Shana. You said it was the death of the generic warehouse tap room.
Hold on.
Oh, brewery resales.
So
Oh.
I wrote one in before, but then while we were sitting here talking, I thought of a more interesting one.
Okay.
But
okay.
I think just sort of on a quick one that's not going to send us into like a tailspin of conversation, which is how you know it was a good one. You're welcome. Yeah, I think that like brand is going to be really important. We were talking about that a little bit.
I'm only laughing because Jude said, I'll go. I
Yeah,
said,
and then
hold
he
on,
just-
time out. And then he immediately got
sprinted out
out
of the
left.
room.
He must have been angry.
I can hear his car starting.
Yeah,
He's-
exactly.
He's gone, I think. I think that COVID obviously put a major halt to hospitality in general and put a lot of tap rooms into survival mode and how can we get people in here without us all dying. And I think that if we all act right, maybe next year can be the year that we get back to doing hospitality right. And I think that the generic big empty brewery warehouse tap room is going to go by the wayside because everyone's been there, done that. I think that you're going to have to sort of brand and market your space better. You have to have a good tap room space. And while Jude's not in the room, we can talk about his space because I was stoked to go check out Hop Butcher because I have a lot of great memories from going to Half Acre on Lincoln Ave for many, many years. So when they reopened in that space, I was super excited to go check it out, and it was like settling into the wood tables and like sitting on the bolted, terrible bar stools that you can't move.
Yeah.
But it just it took me right back. So I think that these breweries, these brands are going to have to put a lot more thought and care into their hospitality
To me, it's the
space.
corrugated metal that you used to see all over the
Horrible.
place.
Corrugated metal, that ubiquitous
Corrugated metal.
awful tap room,
the reclaimed-
four chair stool or
Corrugated.
4 foot stool. Awful, uncomfortable. Nobody likes it.
Right.
Like
Right, but it's
nobody.
It was
yeah,
it was
so
cool when it
industrial.
was unique and that you were like, I'm drinking in the place they make this, and
Yeah.
these things signal that.
But
And
like
then
now
when-
we know we're drinking.
But then
in
it just
the
became a
place they
cheap
make it.
aesthetic, and everyone's just like, I
Yeah.
don't think this is the vibe.
So it's maybe less of a prediction and more of a prayer that this generic warehouse vibe goes away. But
Yeah.
I also think that there's a lot of value in placemaking and a lot of value in doing and offering something different and unique in your space, even if it's just like a one-off, like a guided tasting that's coming back. That used to be huge, but then it got corny, and I think they can be cool again.
Right. And when the whole thing was growing, being kind of generic and faceless was an asset because anyone could impose their own thoughts and beliefs about a brewery onto that. But as things get tougher and you have to be more specific and more thoughtful about presenting who your brewery actually is, right? Whereas like it's not just like, oh, we make the beers.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, yeah, come have them.
I think that's
Like,
got
it's
to
not that
change,
anymore.
and I think now is sort of the time that it will, because it might make or break your brand in sort of a tumultuous time.
Yeah.
I think too. I think anytime you create like a deeper,
Jude's back, by the way.
a deeper context, it's powerful. Beer Cellar did something this year where they had nothing but Maine beers and Allagash beers on draft, and then they had lobster rolls available, in a food truck, and you could eat lobster rolls on their own somewhere else, and you could drink Allagash White somewhere else on its own, or Maine Peeper. But when you combine the two, it makes you think a little bit deeper and consider, where the beer was made, what the beer's about, what that story is, and it kind of puts you more in a place and time. And I think it takes that experience and it elevates it. And I know when they did that, I went out, I bought a ton of Maine, I bought a ton of Allagash, I ate lobster rolls, and for a moment, it made me feel like I was in Freeport. And that sounds silly, but no, that was a driver, that was a mover, and that's one of the coolest experiences, I think. Hold on, it was a parking lot in Glen Ellen at a craft beer store, but it was a very
exactly
heightened moment, in craft beer for me this year.
Cool.
Good moment.
Keep going. What's your prediction? 23.
More
Wait, hold on.
more
Let me interrupt you.
lobster Maine beers.
I was just kidding.
Yeah.
No, what's your prediction for 2023?
More lobster rolls and Maine beers in Glen Ellen.
I didn't see that on the sheet.
I wrote it down, but I don't know how to save Google Sheets, so I don't know if it.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. I think it just automatically saves. So
It does.
yeah, it does.
So the joke is that you did write it down. The joke was that it didn't save. You did write it down and it actually saved.
I can't confirm either.
Oh,
Go
okay,
back to
okay.
check. I know
Anyway.
I wrote it down. I did my part.
So just pick another prediction.
Okay. So there's a lot of impact in subtlety and simplicity, and I a lot of times I think that gets overlooked for big and bold. Big and bold is good, but sometimes I think like keeping it simple also gets overlooked. So when we think about what's the next big thing, you know, I don't know that anything's going to have the impact that Hazy IPA has had for the next couple years.
No, I agree.
So I think what you're going to start, or I think what has always really happened, but we can highlight even more, is just going back and focusing on, kind of explaining or saying why things are important based on the ingredients that they're brewed with and the quality and the care that goes into what you're presenting. So, specifically when it comes to hops, I think that like the deeper that we can all get, if we're going to focus on hoppy beers, the deeper that we can get into like kind of curating an experience behind like some of like, the tried and trues like Citras and Simcoes and Mosaics, and how we can dive deeper into those, varieties and those expressions and be able to explain to people what the differences are and actually curate a perspective into like why, these beers are different than these other beers based on just ingredient selection. I think that's something that's kind of like not the wave of the future, but I mean, I feel that's something that can carry us into the future, as well as stuff like Phantasm, and advanced hop products and Incognito that you could, you can put into hot side in a whirlpool, or you could cool into your fermenter and then, let it hang out in your fermenter and cool in a barrel of hot wort and mimic the same thing that you did in the whirlpool, and then, kind of flip on the water, and now you're cooling in at, 68, into your, and then in your kind of incorporating your, downstream hop product. All these types of advanced hop products, I think, have a real chance to be differentiators and searchers for new flavor. Phantasm has a liquid product coming out. They're tied in with freestyle hops. You've now got like a thiol-driven Motueka. So within the year, Phantasm's been a big part of a conversation. It does produce results. You're starting to see other products be developed. You've got Flex, you've got Incognito, you've got all of these different types of downstream products that are being used. So I'd say watch out for that.
So I have a question, because this might tie into my second prediction. Do you think, like, Phantasm is known for being incredibly expensive, though? Do you think some of these products are going to help alleviate some of the cost of these really expensive designer hops, like boutique hop? Well, I don't know if that's right, or is it just going to be, strictly new flavors, more intense flavors? Do you think there'll be any benefits from the producer for, cost, efficiency, stuff like that, or both?
I think there could be. I just know the way we use it is strictly for flavor.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, cool.
So I'd say just watch out for. I don't think there's going to be another big hop. I think I think that coming out of hop selection this year, a lot of what partner breweries or partner farmers with Yakima Chief or with Haas are saying, we're not looking for the next Citra or the next Mosaic. So there's beauty in hops like Talus that are very singular in their expression, or Sabro, or 586 is coming out, 1019 is coming out. So they're saying, we're not going to be the hop that's in zombie dust, but there's no hop that's like rosemary and thyme and grapefruit and raspberry, and that's fine. And if it grows for us and we have something to present, that's going to be cool. So I think you're not going to see, the next world beater. So don't expect the next hop, but but look into the quality of ingredients and
More varied palette to paint with, perhaps.
Yep. That's not necessarily always just like the brightest orange and the brightest yellow that
Right.
hits a home run every time.
We lived through a period of.
Yeah.
Like
You're more of a tan and taupe guy, Mike.
Absolutely, I'm a earth tones.
Yeah.
But we lived through a period where, like, for 4 out of 5 years, Citra, like Simcoe, Citra, Mosaic, and the like other like hops like that were coming out every year, and they were new and they were gettable for a while.
And nothing like you had ever experienced.
Something like that's never going to happen again. Where like the industry was growing so intensely, and the products that you could get were so unique and insane, coming out of the ground. Like now it's like more, how do we make these more impactful? How do we make new versions of this?
So I think what you're going to see, though, with all of that being said, is there's ways that we could brew beer styles, in particular, like West Coast IPA, hoppy lager. It could be crunchy beers at 5% and 6%. It could be beers, bigger beers at 7.5%, 8%, 9%. But I think that we have got a lot more ingredients where we can apply them to beers that are either drinkable when you're looking to get, poked in between your eyes, or you're looking to, throw down a bunch at 5 o'clock and have 2 or 3. But I think there's ways to make these beers with quality ingredients and talk about, why they're important, and talk about how we're making them with newer eyes or more experience. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the next greatest thing, but, just a continued interest in beers that we've been drinking forever with just like really quality ingredients.
All right. I've got 2. My first one, I don't know. The first one that I wrote down was, I think that we're going to see way more of this emphasis from the big guys. And this is how the Voodoo Ranger as my beer of the year is all coming around. And then my story of the year was Bell's. I think the prediction is this kind of brand extension focus is going to continue and just go like wild, maybe go off the rails, or at least become like the standard thing. So, I mean, we've seen Sierra Nevada, Mike, you and I talked about for a while, is going so heavy IPA. I mean, it's going to be like the Hazy Little Brewing Company, more or less. And then it's going to be the Voodoo Ranger Brewing Company. Two Hearted is now, they have their variety pack is all hearted stuff.
So you don't think it's going to be like a return to classic styles?
Right. No, well, hold on. I've got it. That's the flip side. So, but I think here locally, like the heroes, I mean, there's so many heroes right now. I mean, and it doesn't look like it's stopping, for them. So I do think that these big guys are just going to keep doing this brand extension thing. And it's funny, I was, again, talking with Max. I went over like some of these ideas with him, and he had a lot of awesome insight. And one thing that he just said kind of off the cuff is that he said, like, yeah, like the variety packs from breweries nowadays aren't variety packs. They're just like brand extension packs. So you just buy the Voodoo thing, you buy the Hearted thing, and I was like, geez, yeah, you're right. That is what it is. He's like, yeah. And we were just talking about how, yeah, the big guys are just they're just going so hard on this brand extension. Oh, you like Hazy Little Thing? Well, now here's Heavy Little Thing, and now here's this one and that one. And they're all doing well, apparently, so I guess they're just going to keep doing it at the expense of some other stuff. And that's the other side of the coin, because we talked about how Lagunitas and Sierra Nevada have kind of like dropped so many of their old classics, and their portfolio is so less diversified. So I do think that smaller breweries can now start to do the exact opposite and not start doing all these brand extensions, but instead start branching out into styles. I got to go there because this is what I want. This is like my prediction every year. So that haven't
This
been.
is the year of the
Next
pub
year, my prediction is
mild.
going to be that Chris predicts a return to classic styles.
Hey, smaller
it.
breweries can
Mark
do
it
the
down.
opposite and start to branch out into styles they haven't focused on in the past. I know I've had that exact same prediction in the past, but I could probably find out exactly the one I did. But I do. I am seeing it a little bit already. I am starting to see some breweries put out styles into distro that I have not seen them focus on before. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm glad to see that. That's nice to see people are branching out and trying different styles of beer.
Can you give me an example?
I can't right now.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
brew pub beers, though. I mean, I've seen a couple of like amber ales and oatmeal stouts floating around. It's like, wait, what? Are brew pubs coming back?
Right.
I think they are.
Right.
I'm into
I
it.
think that, yeah. I was joking. We brewed that rot beer, which is like means red beer in.
Yeah.
So good though.
And then next week we're brewing an amber beer de garde with someone. And I was like, oh, we just accidentally put a red ale and an amber ale on our schedule for like the next two
Right.
beers. we're gonna
Funny.
release.
2023, year of the brew pub.
Right. And
Yeah.
so like it's back. We've come all the way around to where like, oh, we're reinventing the amber ale.
Right. Right. No.
I think you look at like I think it's Funky Town that's been brewing at Pilot Project.
Yeah.
Like their starting lineup was a classic brew pub list.
Yeah.
And they were all good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
they're not.
Hey.
They're ahead of the curve.
Well, they specifically talk about, like, they're a black-owned brewery, and they've talked to me about, we've brewed a couple collaborations with them, like, when they talk to people that aren't, like, white people, they're like, they don't want to drink IPAs. like,
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
like, I want, like, they want an amber ale, or they want something that's, like, they're like, I don't understand what this is, or why you're drinking this, so they want something that's more, like, I guess, approachable, or
Yeah, you look back
balanced,
to
or less down the rabbit hole of what craft beer has been tasting like for the last 10 years.
You look back to Dom who started beer culture, and he was like, I get all my friends into beer by giving them like Flanders beer and Guinness, and they love it.
Yeah.
They don't want IPAs.
My second prediction is that we reach a breaking point in IPA 4-pack pricing, and that we're going to start seeing pushback / ignoring of the $20 and plus 4-pack. I did also literally write, see also Trillium in Chicago. They dropped today, by the way.
That was like,
People
that's
were
a
pretty
direct
excited.
response to your-
We're selling them direct. We're selling them one can at a time.
So
wasn't
all
my
the data
call,
you
but-
have currently is counter to what you're what you're talking about.
No, that's not. Wait. all
People
the
are
data
excited
I
about
have-
People are excited about the $36 4-packs that you're selling.
I don't know. We just got it in. I don't know how. I mean, they've been in here for like a couple hours, or a little more than a couple now. I have no idea how they're selling. I mean,
Okay.
I just noticed that they were in here. I think when I came, I usually leave, have dinner, and then come back. When I came back is when I noticed that it was here. So
Chris, where do you see the split in 4-packs? They're two different camps
the split. What do you mean?
on pricing.
I think you start going over like $20. So here's what
You
I'm.
see a lot of $20 4-packs here?
Yeah. I mean, we enough of
Mostly
them.
out-of-town breweries?
Yeah. But then there's other people who are like getting up there close to that for sure, like $18.99, stuff like that. And then you look at somebody. I think there's going to be a point where people are going to look at like the $12.99, or I don't even know what the like Son of Juice 4-pack pricing is for Maplewood, and be like, oh, this is like half the price, and it's still really good. I'm going to get this instead. I don't know how long the other half and Trillium prices can last, because I don't think people are. It's just I just don't think people are gonna. I think it's
With all due respect to
gonna
those
be-
breweries, I don't
yeah.
think you ever saw a lot of. I mean, at the most around here, 17. People were pushing $17.99, maybe 20.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
around here, but not much. And you get some out of town breweries coming in. But I don't know. But I feel like Chicago. I don't know. You don't see that many examples of. I mean, in the East Coast, 20, 24, 26, 30. You build in freight over here, things get expensive. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it overall. I think a lot of these super high prices, it can be on the East Coast as well. I just don't. I just think there's going to be. I think we've reached the, with some of the other trends and what people are expecting to happen in 2023 with the economy and inflation and all that sort of stuff. I just don't think that we're going to see it go much higher. I could be wrong.
It's tougher to send beer around the country now when you lay in all those costs.
Yeah.
Especially if you have an already expensive product. Well, compared to the Midwest, if you have an expensive product like on the East Coast, and then you want to maintain those standards and send it to the Midwest, it's going to be a pretty expensive beer.
Right.
Especially when you have beer here that's, pretty good quality.
Sure.
And
but if you start seeing like
less.
cold IPAs and, I can get a cold IPA 4-pack for half the price or for close to half the price. I like cold IPAs. I like hazies. This hazy is going to be $17.99, $18.99, and this other one is going to be $9.99, $8.99, maybe $10.99. It's like
Depends on who the buyer is and the brewery that they're buying, and if they've had them before, and if there's anything comparable to them. There's all those. I mean, all that goes. You're going to spend money on what you want to. If you've never had it before and it really means something to you, you're going to spend it on you. If you have something that's similar to it, and and
I think you see less of that, right? You see less spending on things where like I'm going to try it because it's new. I think you get when people especially at like that $20+ 4-pack price.
Also, like, am I going to buy?
You've had enough close to it.
Am I going to buy it? Right, exactly.
At this point, if you're someone who's interested in that, you
4-packs of that priced IPA. I know what that is more or less.
Right, or you've had like enough.
You become so familiar at that point.
You've had enough Hop Butcher beers that you're like, I love those beers. I don't need to spend $36 on a 4-pack of Trillium because I get as good, if not better, beer from my local producer. That's half the price at that point.
Right.
So like, I think we'll see less experimentation from people and less being like, I value this.
But if that happens 5 years ago, then yes, right?
Yeah.
If it happens at that time, we're like, we were making beers for 5-7 years. But if you go back to when we're not making any hazy IPA and Trillium comes to town, and you're spending $30 on it because you haven't had anything around here.
That's not where we're at anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I think that
especially
that
at least in
margin's
Chicago.
Smaller
At least in
and smaller.
Chicago.
The group of people that are doing that is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Having some mic issues here. Yes, Mike's having mic issues. All your issues are mic issues, I guess.
That's true. I'm just going to hold it for the rest of the show.
Okay. I don't think we have much longer to go. Just hold it. There you go. Seems efficient. Yeah, an old crooner.
Looking like
Yeah.
he's
Like
doing
an
a
old
ballad over
crooner
here.
now, yeah.
That's exactly what I thought.
Whoa.
What was the green bottle song you sang? earlier?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Green
beginning.
bottle.
It had something to do with skunk, right?
Yeah, but no, it
forgot
was. Yeah, let's
We'll
not
remember
go
after the
there.
show.
That was for the Patreon, I think.
Yeah,
We weren't
Serge-
recording
Yeah, it's a
yet.
Patreon episode.
Serge, you got that right.
Oh, yeah, it's all been gotten.
Yeah, that's for
We
the
got it
Patreon.
all. Well, thank you guys for coming here. It's been awesome, and Mike especially. Thank you for. I know you had a long
I
day.
mean, thank goodness.
I made it, yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
the real hero. Also, thank Ari. He's sitting.
Thanks, Ari.
He's
He seems
asleep.
very
He
tired.
fell asleep immediately.
Yeah.
He actually has to work his real job tomorrow, so.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone. It's always a fun episode to do the year end and put in writing some more future wrong predictions. But who knows?
Have
Maybe
there
I'll
been
have
any
one
correct
right.
predictions that Doug didn't make?
I mean, I don't think there's been any. There hasn't been any, like, including with Doug. predictions that are like super like finite predictions, like some broad trendy ones, but like this is going to happen this year. Like that does no. Most of our predictions are wrong.
I think I've whiffed wholesale on every prediction I've ever made on this show, so that hopefully that's a good sign for the industry as a whole for my prediction this year.
There you go.
Yeah.
You did predict hot IPA this year, right?
Something
year?
like that.
Yeah.
It was
This is the year of
hot,
hot
hot
IPA.
IPA or cold Kvike were my two
Yeah,
predictions.
I predict tepid IPA next year.
Yeah.
Ooh.
68-degree
Yeah,
IPA.
tepid IPA.
Yeah.
Still?
Lukewarm.
Yeah.
Still IPA.
Still IPA.
65,
Served
68
in
degrees.
wine bags.
I think every style should just have IPA appended to it.
There was an article not too long ago about how Saison just become farmhouse IPA.
It should. I mean, it really should.
And I couldn't tell if it was just a joke or if it
Phenolic IPA.
I mean,
was just meant to trigger everyone who was making Saisons.
I mean, I had
Wouldn't be happy enough.
I had a dry hopped a farmhouse ale the other day, and it was from a brewery that we don't get distro on, and I was like, "Oh, this tastes like those bread IPAs." And it reminded me of the old Anchorage, like white IPA,
good.
those
Those
bread
were
IPA, the
great.
White Galaxy IPA.
Orions had a
awesome.
beer called Super Flare.
Yeah.
So good.
They were great, those bread
Bread
IPAs.
IPAs.
But this was a dry hop farmhouse ale. I was like, they should totally call this a Brett IPA because it was tasty. Tasty brew.
Do you recall Great Divide had a farmhouse ale. Remember what that was called?
Colette.
Yes.
Yellow and blue.
Yeah. Was it
called
Colette?
Colette.
Yeah,
Oh,
Colette.
you got it. Look at you.
Wow.
I know my farmhouse.
High five. You did it.
Even though the whole thing is a joke,
What
as
is?
we found out this year, the whole
Oh yeah,
farmhouse
it's
thing.
not real.
It's not real.
It doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. Never has. It's a figment of
Never
our.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one wrote it down, so it doesn't exist.
There you are.
Yeah.
Was not.
Was not.
Never was.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, anybody would like to say before we get out of here? Oh, he's handing the mic over to Serge. What's going to happen?
Surge!
No, doesn't look like it.
Handed it back.
Oh, okay.
Didn't know what I was doing.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We will see you with another. I have a couple episodes coming out this year still, but next time we are together, it will be 2023. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
The future.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from